America, welcome back. You're watching Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. I am Rich Valdez, and that's Valdez with an S from WABC Radio. I am sitting in for John Tobacco today. And I just gave you a little bit of a diatribe. We were talking about just the economy overall, just about the freedom that we need to have as Americans, the importance of a free market, and how important it is to have fair taxation, because you work hard for your money and you don't want the government to continue to take and promote these confiscatory taxes that really don't make any of us happier or richer. So with that being said, I want to bring in an expert. We've got Grover Norquist. He's the president of American for Tax Reform. You guys know him if you watch this show. And I want to talk about something that I think he's going to be able to shed a little bit more light on. Grover, welcome to the program.
Good to be with you.
Awesome. So now Joe Biden says that he's going to increase taxes on the rich, or at least those earning more than $400,000. What he's not talking about so much is that he wants to bring back the Obamacare individual mandate. Tell us more about it.
Sure. He says he's only going to tax people who make more than $400,000 a year. You may remember that because in 2008, Obama and Biden promised they wouldn't tax anyone who earned less than $250,000 a year. Okay. And then they turned around and imposed to pay for Obamacare something called the Obamacare penalty tax. That was a tax of $695 per person. If you didn't buy Obamacare, they said you don't get anything for $695. It's just a tax. 5 million Americans were hit by that tax. It would also hit your children and your spouse if you collectively didn't buy Obamacare. It was to penalize you, to whack you on the side of the head, make you buy Obamacare. 5 million people said Obamacare still doesn't make any sense, even if I have to pay the penalty. And every year, 5 million Americans were hit with that penalty. When Trump and the Republicans got into power, they ended that tax. They ended it. And Biden is now twice on television said, I'll bring it back. I'll bring it back. So he is on record, on film, saying, I will tax people $695. By the way, 3/4 of the people who pay that tax earned less than $50,000 a year. 3/4 earned less than $50,000 a year. That is a direct tax on middle income people. And in addition, when he says he's going to bring back all of the Obamacare taxes by getting rid of the Trump tax cut, remember, that's a $2,000 tax increase for a middle income American with 2 children, 2 parents, 2 children, $2,000 tax increase if you get rid of the Republican tax cuts. For a single parent with 1 child, median income, it's a $1,300 tax increase. His tax hikes by getting rid of the Republican tax cuts are direct, specific, big tax increases on middle Americans. And he lied to us in 2008. Shame on us if we believe that nonsense again.
So, Grover Norquist, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm having a tough time believing that. I mean, obviously, a Democrat selling a tax is nothing new, but I'm having a tough time believing that who they want to target with the tax. And you just said it, $2,000. I'm looking at figures right here, $2,085 more. And you're talking about 75% of the families that would be hit with this bill earn less than $50,000 a year. So we're talking about, that's not only moderate. I mean, many of these families, I think a lot of people consider low income earning families.
But like they say on those late night shows, that's not all.
Right, but wait, there's more.
Also has a gasoline tax, an energy tax on all the energy. When you fill up your tank, he's going to tax that. When you have home heating oil, he's going to tax that. If you have natural gas, he's going to tax that. If you use electricity from coal, he's going to tax that. He has an energy tax that's going to hit everything you buy. You go to a grocery store, everything that was trucked to that grocery store has an energy component in the cost. All those prices, you go to the grocery store, it'll cost you more. Anything you do in life will cost you more. Fill up your tank, it'll cost you more. And he says only rich people, maybe in his world, only rich people will have cars because they'll all be Teslas, and the rest of us won't have cars. But to the extent we still have cars, if he was president, he will raise every person's taxes. And by the way, millionaires don't care if the price of gasoline goes up 50 cents or $1. The rest of us do.
Right. Now, so with that being said, you talked about natural gas, and he's been under fire for saying he would end fracking, he would bring fracking back. Tell us a little bit more about how he's going to specifically be attacking energy.
Okay. Well, he has said repeatedly, and we have it on a video that went viral to more than 1 million people. He said he's going to end fracking. He says he's going to end natural gas and oil in this country. Asked whether he was going to get rid of fracking, he said yes. So again and again and again on television, on camera, he has admitted his goal is to end fracking and oil and natural gas. One thing to remember, fracking we think of as some new way of getting natural gas. 95% of all gasoline and oil in the United States is fracked. That's the new way to do it. It's not something weird, different, or only done in North Dakota. It is oil and natural gas. So when he says he will end oil and natural gas, he means ending fracking. When he says he is going to end fracking, he means no more oil and natural gas. And he's been very clear that, of course, will raise the cost of all your energy, because if you don't have natural gas, oil, coal, real energy, you have to buy the energy that's been subsidized to date, because it's higher priced, and that's wind and solar. Of course, that only happens during the day, solar. It only happens when it's windy, wind. So what will you do when it's not windy and the sun don't shine? Then you look like California with blackouts, or Kenya with blackouts, or Albania with blackouts. But in the United States, they're shutting down power because they went to the alternative energy rather than real energy in California. That's the future under Obama. And $4 gasoline prices.
Yeah, and Americans don't want to deal with $4 gasoline prices, that's for sure. So I want to get your, I guess if you're advising the president and doing what you guys do at AFT, tell us about the what you're promoting for tax policy going into 2021 and beyond.
Sure. If President Trump is reelected and you have a Republican House and Senate, the president's already said he's going to take the corporate rate, which is now at 21. Biden wants to take it to 35 or 28. He varies on what day of the week it is, and whether he's talking or his advisors are talking. But 28 or 35, that's higher than communist China. He wants taxes on American businesses to be higher than taxes in China on businesses. So investors making a decision on taxes will move to China thanks to Biden's high taxes. That's a disaster. What the president wants to do is take the 21% rate now, which is already lower than most of Europe, to 15, so that we'd be more competitive with the rest of the world, and take full expensing, so that when you invest in a new factory, you expense it rather than depreciate it over 30 years. All of that reduces the cost for new investment and attracts investment to the United States. And all of the tax cuts that last about 10 years, because those are the rules when you pass them on the personal level, he wants to make those permanent. And Biden wants to take them away. The president wants to make them permanent. The president would also like to index capital gains so you don't pay taxes on inflation. You sell your house, you shouldn't have to pay capital gains taxes on the inflation part of that house or land. Yeah.
All right, so speaking of capital gains, how feasible or how realistic do you think it's going to be? And again, this is political handicapping at this point. But what do you think are going to be the challenges they face to get that through Congress, to get that enacted?
Well, if we get a Republican House and Senate, you can do it with a simple majority, and all the tax cuts we're talking about will happen. And there's a lot of support for not indexing, indexing capital gains, so you end the tax on inflation there. If the president was elected with a Republican Senate, but not yet the House, he could still do indexation through executive order. The Supreme Court ruled that the president could define cost as historic cost or cost plus inflation, which in effect gets rid of the tax on inflation.
All right. Now, Grover Norquist, before we go, I guess in a minute or less, tell us about some of the statewide priorities that you guys have going on across the country, because I know you're involved at the national level, but you have some statewide priorities as well.
Colorado has a measure to cut. They have a flat tax in Colorado. They're going to reduce it. Taxpayers have put that on the agenda for Colorado. Looks very, very good. There's an effort to raise the income tax in Arizona that the left-wingers have put on. Hopefully that will be defeated. A court knocked it off because it was dishonest in how it presented itself. And another court said, no, they can lie. So it is going to be on the ballot. Hopefully that will be defeated. There are a number of measures to try and keep taxes down. And I think be sure and look at those measures. Ballotpedia has a list of all the things that are on the ballot in your state. Don't just vote for president, Senate, House, and go home. There are some very important ballot questions to be sure to vote for or against.
Yeah, and I think you raise a good point as we head to the voting booth in, what is that? Less than 2 months.
Yeah.
And we have to be aware of so many things that are going on. That's why I asked you about the statewide initiatives, because this is a national show, and it's important, I think, that people realize there's a lot going on, and there's ways that we can impact it. And when you get something implemented in one state, there's times where you can replicate it in another state when you've shown that type of success. So I guess 30 seconds, give us the final word.
Final word is, if you want your taxes to go up, vote for Biden. If you want lower taxes, vote for Trump. And those tax increases that Biden wants will drop the value of your life savings in a 401k or IRA about 50%. So vote, think carefully.
All right. Grover Norquist is the president of Americans for Tax Reform. Grover, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate it. And I'm glad you were here with us on Liquid Lunch.
Good to be with you.